My husband clinked his glass at his family's annual charity dinner and smiled like he was about to announce something wonderful. 200 people in evening wear turned toward our table, linen napkins, candlelight reflecting off crystal. "We've decided to take some time apart," he said, his voice carrying across the room with practiced ease. The murmur started immediately. Eyes snapped to me. I sat perfectly still, my fork halfway to my mouth. Then he added, softer, like he was being merciful, "Please respect Mallory's privacy during this time. She's having a hard time." His mother reached across the table and patted his arm like he was being so brave, so mature, so strong for handling his difficult wife with such grace. I felt the room tilt toward pity, but not for me. For him. The man suffering through his wife's instability. The man holding it together while I fell apart. I didn't speak. I didn't cry. I didn't defend myself. I just set my fork down carefully and folded my hands in my lap. His mother leaned close, her perfume thick and cloying. She whispered in my ear, "Be a good girl tonight." People waited for me to cry, to run from the table, to deny what he'd said, to make a scene that would prove every word of his carefully constructed story. I gave them nothing, just a calm smile that didn't reach my eyes, a nod to acknowledge I'd heard him. Silence. My husband exhaled like he'd won something, like my silence was surrender. A family friend squeezed my shoulder as she passed. "We're praying for you, dear," she said, her voice dripping with concern that felt more like judgment. Across the table, my husband's eyes locked on mine. The message was clear. Stay quiet, and this stays clean. Make noise and I'll make it worse. I watched him, really watched him. The way he tilted his head when people offered sympathy. The way he accepted their concern like he deserved it. The way he'd turned our marriage ending into a performance. That's when I caught it. His hands sliding into his jacket pocket, pulling out his phone, angling it toward me. He was recording my face, documenting my reaction, making sure he had evidence of how calm I was, how I didn't deny anything, how I sat there and took it. I smiled wider and looked directly at the camera. "My name is Mallory Keene. I'm 33 years old. White, American. The kind of woman who believed that if you loved someone, you protected them from embarrassment." Tonight, sitting at that charity dinner, I realized my husband had been rehearsing my humiliation like a speech, planning it, perfecting it, choosing the exact moment and audience for maximum impact. We'd been married 8 years, no kids, just a life we'd built together, a house, careers, friends, and a family I'd thought was mine too. His parents, his siblings, his cousins and aunts and uncles who'd welcome me at holidays and birthdays. But tonight, watching them nod along with his announcement, I understood. I was never really family. I was a guest who'd overstayed her welcome. The dinner continued around me. Plates were cleared, dessert was served, people talked and laughed and pretended everything was normal while I sat there like a ghost. I excused myself to the bathroom. In the mirror, I noticed something odd. My mascara looked different, smudged in a way I hadn't done it. I opened my purse. Someone had been through it. My makeup bag was rearranged. Items moved. Someone had touched my things while I was at the table. When I returned to the table, my chair had been shifted. Just slightly. A few inches away from my husband's seat, small enough to look accidental, big enough that everyone could see the distance between us. The separation already happening in real time. My husband was telling a story to the couple across from us. "She's been so stressed lately," he said, laughing gently like it was endearing. "Work has been really hard on her. I've been worried." His mother nodded along like a therapist who'd heard this before. "We've all noticed," she added helpfully. I stared at my water glass and listened like a witness to someone else's life. Someone else's breakdown. Someone else's failure. Around me, the conversation continued. People asked my husband how he was holding up, if he needed anything, if there was anything they could do to support him during this difficult time. No one asked me. A cousin I barely knew leaned toward me, her voice low and almost gleeful with gossip. "Did you really throw a plate at him?" I looked at her. Really looked. Saw the excitement in her eyes. The hunger for drama. The way she wanted the story to be true. "No," I said simply. "That's not true." She looked disappointed. I laughed. One sharp breath through my nose, because I knew what this was now. A story, polished and practiced, built on just enough truth to sound believable and just enough lies to make me the villain. The cousin waited for me to say more, to defend myself, to explain. Instead, I answered with 4 words, "No, that's not true." Then I turned back to my water glass and said nothing else. My smile tightened, just for a second, just enough for me to notice. He wanted a reaction, anger, tears, denial that sounded desperate, something he could point to later and say, "See, this is what I'm dealing with." But I gave him nothing. Later, when we were in the car heading home, my phone buzzed. A text from him, even though he was sitting right next to me. "You're doing great, keep it up." I stared at the message. The condescension, the control, the implication that my behavior was something he was managing. When we pulled into the driveway, I noticed something immediately. The guest room light was on. We never used the guest room. I walked inside. His mother's suitcase was sitting on the bed, already unpacked. She was moving in. His mother sat at my kitchen table the next morning like she paid rent, like she owned the house, like I was the guest. "We're here to support you both," she said, her voice warm and concerned in that way that felt like a threat. Then she slid a piece of paper across the counter toward me, a list, typed, printed, laminated. House rules for a healthy separation. No emotional outbursts, no harassment or hostile communication, no dramatic scenes in front of family, respect each other's space and boundaries. My husband stood behind her like security, like muscle, making sure I understood this wasn't a suggestion. I read the list slowly, turned it over, blank on the back. "Who wrote this?" I asked. "We all agreed it would help," his mother said. I noticed she said we, not you both, not the family, just we. The people who mattered, the people making decisions. I wasn't part of we anymore. I set the list down carefully. "Okay." My husband's shoulders relaxed. He thought I was agreeing. Submitting. He checked his phone, then looked up casually. "By the way, the bank called. I moved some money into a separate account, just for safety, you understand." I understood perfectly. I didn't yell. That's what he wanted. A reason to point and say, "See, this is why I had to protect myself." Instead, I walked through the house and started noticing things. Small things. Missing things. Papers were gone from the home office. Mail I'd been expecting hadn't arrived. A folder where we kept bank statements was empty. When I asked about it, my husband acted offended. "You don't trust me." I nodded like I was tired. "I'm just trying to keep track of things." "That's the problem, Mallory. You're always suspicious, always looking for something to be wrong." Inside, I was counting, cataloging, building my own inventory of what was disappearing. That night, I heard his mother on the phone in the guest room. Her voice carried through the walls. "She's behaving," she said. "No outbursts, no drama." "Good, that makes this easier." I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, understanding exactly what was happening. They weren't trying to fix the marriage. They were managing me, controlling the narrative, making sure when this ended, I looked like the problem, and he looked like the victim. His niece's birthday party was 2 days later. I'd already bought a gift weeks ago, a dollhouse she'd been asking for. I arrived with the wrapped box and the same calm face I'd worn at the charity dinner. His sister answered the door and blocked the entrance with her body. "Mallory, maybe it's best if you don't come in. The kids are sensitive, and with everything going on." My husband appeared behind her, his face arranged in surprise. Innocent. Concerned. "I didn't know she'd say that," he said, looking at me like he was embarrassed by his sister's rudeness. But I'd seen his car in the driveway for 20 minutes before I arrived. He'd been here. He'd had time to tell his sister I was coming. This was planned. I handed the gift to his sister. "Just give this to Emma. Tell her happy birthday." As I turned to leave, I glanced through the window into the dining room. A handwritten seating chart sat on the table. Names in neat rows. My name had been written in pencil, then erased, then scratched out with pen. They'd made space for me, then taken it away, then made sure I couldn't be added back. They took family pictures on the porch. Someone called out, "Mallory, can you grab my purse? I think I left it in the kitchen." I went inside, searching for a purse that probably didn't exist. When I came back out, the camera was already lowered, smiles fading, the photo taken. "Oh," his mother said, not meeting my eyes. "We thought you stepped away. We didn't want to make you wait." I looked at the group. 20 people. His whole family. Standing close together like a wall I couldn't penetrate. I nodded. "It's fine." That night, The photo appeared on his sister's social media. The whole family smiling on the porch, his mother in the center, my husband with his arm around his father. The caption read, "Family means everything." 137 likes. Dozens of comments about how beautiful everyone looked, how blessed they were. No one asked where I was. No one mentioned the wife missing from the family photo. I screenshotted it, saved the date, added it to a folder on my phone I'd started calling evidence. People started calling to check on me. Not to ask what happened, not to hear my side, just to confirm I was okay. My husband's narrative traveled through the family and friend groups with a bow on it. Mallory is fragile. Mallory is unpredictable. Mallory is having a hard time. I said the same sentence every time someone called. I appreciate your concern. Nothing more, nothing less. I didn't correct them, didn't explain, didn't defend. An old friend from college called, someone I hadn't spoken to in months. "Hey, I heard things are tough right now. Your husband reached out to let me know you might need support." My husband had contacted my friends, people from my life, telling them I needed help. He said, "You're refusing to get counseling." She added carefully. I took a breath. "I appreciate your concern." After I hung up, I added her name to a list. People he'd contacted, people he was preparing, witnesses he was building. I didn't get angry. I got organized. At church the following Sunday, his mother hugged me in the lobby. Too long, too tight, too visible. "We're all praying for healing," she said loudly, her voice carrying across the crowded space. Heads turned. Sympathy bloomed in all the wrong directions. People looked at my husband like he was suffering through something difficult with grace. He stood beside his mother looking humble, pained, like a saint enduring his cross. Then he leaned close and whispered in my ear, "See how easy this is?" I pulled back and smiled at him, the kind of smile that could mean anything. After the service, the pastor asked to speak with my husband, just him, privately. His mother touched my arm. "Why don't you wait in the car, dear? This is probably personal." I was the wife, but I wasn't invited to the personal conversation about my own marriage. I went to the car and sat in the passenger seat, watching people file out of the church, watching them stop to talk to my husband, watching them pat his shoulder and shake his hand, building his reputation while mine crumbled quietly in a parked car. A barbecue at his brother's house the next weekend. I brought a pasta salad. I smiled. I stayed calm. His brother was manning the grill when I arrived. He saw me coming and grinned. "Hey everyone, no plates near Mallory, right?" The group laughed. A dozen people standing around with drinks, all laughing at the joke about the plate I never threw. My hands went cold around the serving spoon. I set the pasta salad on the table and said nothing. I watched who laughed hardest, his sister, his cousin, two family friends I'd known for years, all of them believing a story that never happened. My husband appeared beside me, his hand on my lower back, possessive, controlling. "Don't take it personally," he whispered. "They're just kidding." But jokes become truth when enough people repeat them. Later, I saw him slip outside to take a phone call. I followed at a distance, staying behind the shed where he couldn't see me. His voice carried in the quiet evening. "She's not reacting. She's staying too calm. We need to push harder. Make it more obvious." My stomach turned. This was a strategy, a plan. Push me until I broke, until I gave them the reaction they needed. Another family gathering 2 weeks later. A casual dinner at his parents' house. I arrived and noticed immediately. The dining table was set for 8. 8 chairs. 8 place settings. 9 people were invited. I stood in the doorway holding a casserole dish, counting chairs like a child who wasn't picked for the team. His mother saw me and gasped softly. "Oh honey, I didn't think you were coming. You've been so distant lately." Distant. I'd been at every gathering, every dinner, every event, staying quiet, staying calm. But somehow I was distant. My husband shrugged, his face arranged in embarrassment. Not for the missing chair, for me, for my presence. I looked around the room. His brother avoided my eyes. His sister suddenly became very interested in her phone. No one offered to get another chair. I set the casserole on the counter, walked to the patio and brought in a folding chair myself. I set it at the corner of the table and sat down. His mother's eyes narrowed. Just for a second. Like I'd broken a rule by refusing to leave. After dinner, a cousin cornered me by the cooler on the back porch, someone I barely knew, his father's sister's daughter. We'd maybe spoken 5 times in 8 years. But her voice was low, real. "I don't believe him," she said. I looked up, startled. "I watch people," she continued, "and he's enjoying this. The attention, the sympathy. This isn't a man who's heartbroken. This is a man who's winning something." My eyes stung, not from sadness, from relief. Someone saw it. Someone knew. "I'm not ready to talk," I said quietly. She nodded. "Then don't. Just be careful. He's building something, and it's not in your favor." That night, she texted me. "He's telling people you're drinking again, implying I'd had a problem before." Which I hadn't, ever. But the story was evolving, growing, adding details that made me sound worse and him sound more justified. I screenshotted the text, added it to the folder. My husband sent a long message the next day. "Mallory, I'm really worried about you. You're going to embarrass yourself at the fundraiser this weekend. Please don't make a scene, I'm begging you. For your own sake, just stay home." It was written like he was afraid of me, concerned, protective. But I could feel the screenshot forming in his hands, the way he'd show people this message later. "See, I tried to help her. I tried to warn her." I replied with 5 words. "Understood, I won't attend." He called immediately, too fast, too pleased. "Thank you," he said, his voice warm. "I know that's hard for you, but it's better this way. People will understand." I said nothing. "Good," he continued, "because I already told them you wouldn't be there." I hung up and stared at my phone. He'd uninvited me before asking. The message was theater. Proof that I'd chosen to stay away. That I'd agreed. I didn't go to the fundraiser. I stayed home and watched the live stream on my laptop like it was evidence. My husband stood at the podium looking humble and strong. He thanked everyone for supporting the charity, for supporting him during this challenging transition. Applause, sympathy. His mother in the front row dabbing at fake tears. Then he said it. The line he'd been building toward. "I hope Mallory gets the help she needs. We're all praying for her." My name became a prop, a symbol of instability and failure. The comments on the live stream filled with heart emojis and supportive messages, for him. I watched the camera pan across the crowd, and there, for just a moment, I saw it. An envelope in his mother's lap, white, formal. I zoomed in on the screenshot. My signature was visible on the outside, an envelope I'd never signed, never seen. Being held by his mother at a fundraiser I wasn't allowed to attend. A bridal shower invitation arrived in the mail 3 days later. For his cousin. The one getting married in September. My name wasn't on the envelope. Just his. But inside was a handwritten note on expensive stationery. "We didn't want you to feel pressured to attend, given everything you're going through. We hope you understand." I stared at it until my eyes burned. When I showed it to my husband, he sighed. "They're just trying to be considerate, Mallory. They don't want you to feel obligated." "I'm family," I said quietly. "You're going through something," he corrected. "And they're protecting the vibe of the event." His mother appeared in the doorway, smiling that smile that never reached her eyes. "If you behaved better at family events, you'd still be included. But you make people uncomfortable." I looked at her. "I haven't said a word at any gathering." "Exactly," she said. "Your silence is hostile. People can feel your judgment." I couldn't win. Speaking was dramatic. Silence was hostile. My husband changed suddenly, became gentle. He made coffee the way I liked it, offered to watch a movie together, suggested we attend his father's retirement dinner as a united front. "We can show people we're working on things," he said, his voice soft and hopeful. My chest loosened. Just a little. A stupid flicker of hope that maybe he meant it. Maybe we could actually fix this. Then I heard him in the garage that afternoon, talking on the phone. "If she comes to the dinner and acts unstable, we'll have 50 witnesses. It'll seal everything." I stood frozen in the hallway, listening. "I've been nice all week, setting it up. If she embarrasses herself now, no one will question the divorce." My hope turned to steel. He walked back inside and found me in the kitchen. "Ready to be nice at Dad's dinner?" I smiled. "Absolutely." The retirement dinner was at an upscale restaurant, private room, microphone, slideshow of his father's career. My husband kept touching my elbow like he owned my calm, like my silence was his achievement. His mother sat across from me, smiling too sweetly, watching too closely. Dinner was served. Speeches began. People laughed and cried and celebrated. Then my husband stood to make a toast. "Dad," he began, "you taught me so much. How to lead, how to stay strong, how to keep moving forward even when your partner won't cooperate." The room went quiet, uncomfortable, but they laughed nervously because they didn't know what else to do. I felt heat rush to my face, every eye on me, waiting for the reaction. I didn't give them one. I lifted my water glass and took a sip, calm, steady, unshaking. His mother leaned across the table and whispered, "See? No one's on your side." I met her eyes and smiled. 2 days later, his family invited me to talk. I walked into his sister's living room and saw them arranged in a semicircle. His parents, his siblings, his aunt, a tribunal. His mother held a box of tissues like a prop. His brother sat with his arms crossed, looking smug. My husband stood by the fireplace, his face arranged in concern. "We're worried about you, Mallory. We all are." They weren't worried, they were documenting. I looked around the room and spotted it immediately. A phone propped against a lamp. Red light blinking. They were recording this. An intervention I didn't ask for, filmed without my consent. His mother leaned forward. "We love you, dear, but you need help, professional help." His sister added, "We've all seen the changes, the anger, the distance." I let them talk, let them build their case on camera. Then I sat down in the chair they'd left for me and folded my hands like I was praying. They kept prompting me, asking leading questions. "Tell us why you're so angry. Admit you've been struggling. Just say you're sorry for how you've acted." I let long pauses stretch between their questions and my non-answers. Let the silence fill the room with their assumptions. My husband's smile started to slip. His mother's fingers pinched the tissue tighter. Because silence doesn't give them quotes, doesn't give them sound bites, doesn't give them the breakdown they were filming for. "Mallory," his mother said, her voice sharpening. "We're trying to help you." I nodded. "I appreciate that." More silence. His brother shifted uncomfortably. "This is ridiculous. She's not even trying." My husband finally snapped. "Say something, Mallory. Defend yourself. Explain yourself. Just say something." I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said, "I think I'm done here." I stood, smoothed my skirt, and walked out while they sat in their semicircle, cameras still recording nothing useful. His family announced a milestone celebration for his mother 3 weeks later, her 60th birthday. Big hall, catered dinner, speeches and photos and a slideshow. My husband invited my parents. Suddenly inclusive. I realized why immediately. Witnesses, my family seeing me behave badly, seeing me prove everything he'd been saying. He wanted this event to seal his story permanently. "You should come," he said. "I think it would be good for you." I agreed. "I'd like to." He looked surprised, pleased. Then I added, "I'd like to speak, if that's okay. Say a few words about your mother." He laughed, genuinely laughed. "Of course, I'm sure everyone would love that. You'll probably want to apologize to her. Clear the air." I smiled. "Sure." His mother was thrilled when he told her. "How sweet. Maybe this means she's finally ready to take responsibility." They spent the next 3 weeks planning, inviting everyone, building the biggest audience possible for my public breakdown. The celebration was full. Balloons, a photo wall, a professional microphone setup. His mother glowed at the center of the room like a queen surrounded by her court. My husband took the mic first, confident, practiced, charming. He told a story about family loyalty and how hard it is when someone you love can't control themselves. He looked at me for the reaction. The tears, the anger, the proof. But something was different in the room. I felt it. People weren't laughing along the way they used to. They were squinting, exchanging glances, like the story didn't land the way it should anymore. Like they were starting to notice the pattern. The MC, his uncle, smiled uncomfortably and said, "Mallory, your husband mentioned you wanted to share a few words." I stood. My knees felt distant. My hands were steady. I walked to the microphone while 200 people watched. I adjusted the microphone and looked out at the crowd. My parents in the back, his family in the front, friends and relatives filling the space between. "I won't be long," I said. "I just want to clear one thing up." The room quieted, not out of respect, out of curiosity, waiting for the breakdown. I didn't accuse, didn't insult, didn't cry. Instead, I simply repeated 3 contradictions my husband had told at 3 different gatherings over the past month. At the charity dinner, he said I'd been struggling for weeks. At the barbecue, he said it had been months. At his father's retirement, he said years. I listed the dates. The exact quotes, the different versions. At the birthday party, he said I wasn't invited because the kids were sensitive. But I wasn't told until I arrived. At the bridal shower, he said I was too unstable, but I was never asked. People started shifting, whispering. I turned to his mother and asked softly, "Which version do you want everyone to believe tonight?" Her smile froze. Her hands clutched the tissue tighter. My husband reached for the microphone. "Mallory, I think you're confused." But it was too late. My husband laughed too loudly and said, "She's confused. She's been under a lot of stress." But it didn't work anymore. The spell was broken. A guest called out, "Wait, you said she threw a plate at you. When did that happen?" Another voice, "He told me she wasn't allowed at family events, but she's been at all of them." The questions overlapped. Not shouting, just questioning, asking for clarity that couldn't be given, because the story had too many versions, too many contradictions, too many witnesses who'd seen me stay calm while he claimed I was falling apart. And the scariest thing for people like them wasn't anger, it was scrutiny. I set the microphone down gently. I stayed quiet because I didn't want to fight. I wanted the truth to have room to breathe. And now it has. I picked up my coat from the back of my chair and walked toward the exit. Steady. Unshaking. My husband stood in the spotlight that suddenly felt like exposure. His mother beside him, her face pale. As I reached the door, I heard her hiss, "Fix this." And my husband whispered back, terrified, "I don't know how." I pushed the door open and stepped into the cool night air. Free. Not because I'd won, because I'd finally stopped playing a game designed for me to lose. Behind me, the room erupted in voices, questions, doubt. The truth finally had room to breathe. And I was already gone.